What you will need. This is also an interactive section, so you may want to pause the video here and just brainstorm a few things that you think that might be needed in a typical interview. Firstly, we'll start with an interviewee. You will need to make contact with your interviewee before the interview. Arrange a date and a time which is convenient for them and get to know a bit about them. If they ask to know the questions in advance, I would politely explain the format of the interview and give some examples, but don't send them the question schedule beforehand. This may lead to rehearsed answers, which we want to avoid because they are less authentic. Something extra to outline beforehand in order to put them at ease is outlining how you'll be social distancing and sticking to coronavirus guidelines while you visit them. It's also a good idea to send the permission forms to the interviewees in advance so that they can read them and ask questions. They don't need to sign them in advance, but it's always best to be open so that they're prepared and don't get any nasty surprises on the day if the project isn't what they initially thought it was. Permission forms. If you're recording someone, you must get their permission in writing first. This is done through two forms, the participation agreement and the recording agreement. We'll cover these in more detail in a bit, but before each interview, you will need to have 2 of each of these forms printed. If you have any further concerns, check the Oral History Society website for full guidance in preparation and ethics. There'll be a list of resources at the end of this presentation. A valid ID. Please take something with you to identify yourself on arrival, especially if the interviewee is particularly elderly or vulnerable. Don't wait to be asked to present it. Show it to them voluntarily. Some interviewees may understandably not want to let you in without verifying who you are. A phone or computer. This really depends on what kind of interview you're conducting. If you're not able to meet with your interviewee in person, you'll need to phone or video call them to conduct the interview. If all the interviews are in person, it's still advisable to have a fully charged phone on you, just in case, and so that if you're a long time, your colleagues or family know where you are. A recording device. Interviews are usually recorded on a digital voice recorder. If you're conducting your interview on the phone or computer, remember to check that your recording device is positioned well enough to pick up both voices. In general, you only need to know 2 things, which is how to start recording and how to stop. When the red light is flashing, this means that the device is recording. Good headphones. You'll need a good pair of headphones to wear throughout the interview so you can check the quality of the recording and that the voice of the interviewee is being picked up throughout. Ideally, you'll have headphones with you that block out outside noise. Spare batteries. You can never have enough spare batteries for your recording device to avoid any disasters midway through the interview. This has happened to me before, and I was lucky that my interviewee had the right batteries in her house, so we averted a disaster. But it could have been a very different story, and it was very embarrassing. So do make sure you have some spares on you. Questions. Make sure you have a list of questions or themes that you want to cover in the interview. It might not be necessary to use these, but it is good to be prepared. We'll go over this in more detail in a moment. Pen and paper. It is likely that the interviewee will say things that you want to question further. Make sure you have a pen and paper to hand so you can make occasional notes when this happens. By doing this, you'll be reminded to come back to these topics later without disrupting the flow of the interview. And finally, what some would say is the most important item of all, biscuits. It's always good to take something like biscuits with you to your interview as a goodwill offering. It may sound simple, but small gestures like this will help to put the interviewee at ease and build up that rapport early. Avoid taking alcohol though. Not everyone drinks or will want this.